Hello, and welcome back to another Ableton Live tutorial. Today, it's going to be a bit different. We're going to make some beats today, and I'm going to go from beginner to advanced, and we're going to try to move very quickly and efficiently. And I'm also going to give you some words of advice or common pitfalls to just be aware of, so you can actually make the beats rather than searching for samples for 2 hours and then wasting too much of your time. So we're going to be working in the MIDI realm. So we're going to insert a MIDI track. Now what you would typically do is you would make sure you're in instruments, because instruments is where all of our MIDI instruments are. And these are all the ones that come with Ableton. If you have Ableton Live Suite, you will have all of these. And then depending if you have live or intro or standard, you might have a variety of these, but you should have drum racks. So we are going to drag and drop drum rack, and you can see all these pads. Now, all of these pads is where you drop your samples. You have your own samples in your own folders. Take them, drag them in here to the drum rack. But if you are just trying to, especially if you're newer and you're just trying to start making beats, it's helpful to already have an actual drum rack to start with. So drag and drop it on a track. Otherwise, I'm going to show you guys how to get one. So you've got all of these different drum tracks that you can drag and drop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just search for a regular 808 kit, because I know you guys have an 808 as well. I think if you have any version of Ableton, you get an 808 kick. So, and you don't have to use that. I'm just going to use this because it's a good example. So these are all, when I have 808 typed in up here, these are all the folders where there are 808 drum kits located. And I want an 808 classic. And by the way, if you're not finding all of this, you can actually look around these tabs. So if you go to drums, that's where you're going to find most of your drums. So if we have 808, these are all the 808, all the 808s that come with it. So we are going to double click this 808 classic, and now we have it loaded up. So if we play these, you can see all of these samples here. Double click, and let's open up our view here. And what we have right now, and I'm actually going to push Shift Tab. That's how we get to the other tab or the other paneling. And so if you're looking over here and you see all of these samples loaded up, and we come into our MIDI clip, and right now you can see we've got 1 bar. So you see we have a length. This is a 1 bar. And if we right click, we can change the grid, quarter notes or beats. And so what I want to describe is something I don't know why isn't covered very often, but in making a very basic drum beat, there's a few things that are just kind of going to always happen no matter what. And that's that your snare is, especially if you're in 4/4 time, which is also called common time, which is like what the majority of music we listen to is in, your snare is almost always going to be on the 2 and on the 4. And a kick drum is almost always going to be on the 1. Now, you can also have a lot of halftime music where the snare is on the 3, but almost every time it's going to be on the 2 and on the 4. And so you don't want to get so nervous about like, okay, by the way, I'm pushing Command 1, which I believe is Control 1 on a PC to change the grid. Now we're in 16th notes, which I don't know why Ableton's not showing 16th notes down here. I don't know if that's a change, but it was like bugging me out earlier. I'm like, why isn't it showing the grid resolution? I feel like it always did that. But in any event, so what I wanted to just showcase is that, you don't actually, and by the way, this pen tool, you push B to turn it on and off. I'm going to turn it off for now. I normally don't use the pen tool. But what I wanted to showcase is that when you're starting with the clip, you're probably going to start with the bar, then you're going to make it longer, double it. and you keep moving forward there. But I want to bring it back to these basics. So as I was saying, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to an eighth note division. So you see we've got now 2 little beats here in the place of 1. So we've got our 2, 3, and 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click in here to add a kick drum. So we're adding it on the 1, and then we're going to add the snare on the 2 and on the 4. Now hopefully you're not confused. Before we had it as quarter notes, which means 4 little notes per bar, and if we push command 1, we can change it to eighth notes. Normally I keep it on 16th notes because eventually you just get there anyway, but we're starting off small. So we've got our eighth notes here. And so almost all the time, as I've said, you have the snares are on the backbeat. The backbeat is the 2 and the 4. So if you get complicated, if you think things are complicated when you open up a MIDI clip, like, oh man, where do I put these drums? There's so many possibilities. Well, so much of it is already there for you. After you get that down, then it's really all about just having elements dance around. But to make it simple, we got the snare on the 2 and the 4, and the kick is always on the 1. So if we push play, this is what it sounds like. Okay, now you might think, well, what else? Well, beat 3. Well, beat 3 is almost always a kick, and now I'm sure you know what this pattern is. So what next? Well, we've got the kick, which is our low end, performs a tension, and the snare is the release. So the kick may be like, boom, 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 and the snare's like, it forms the release part. So boom, 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 and each time you hear that, it's like the release. So anyways, you might find that useful. What else do we have? So we've got that tension, release. We've got the low end. With the kick, we've got the mid range. With the snare, well, we have a high end, and we'll do that with a hi-hat. So we're going to put the hi-hat on every eighth note here, and these are all eighth notes. And we're going to hover over command, and we're going to drag down this velocity slider, and we're going to highlight both, and we're going to click play. And now listen to what we have. Notice how the hi-hat sound like. I'm going to push Shift Tab to go into the instrument panel, and I'm going to click this button, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to solo the hi-hats. See how it sounds kind of like, it sounds real, right? I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to click stop. Now, let's delete all of these, and let's not do that. And I really want you to understand velocity because it's very important. Velocity are these little guys down here. So right now, I'm going to double click, and I'm going to move our velocity up to 100, and I'm just going to push Command D, and I'm going to duplicate it across. Now listen to how this sounds right now. It's like the same velocity. So that sounds really bad, right? Because it doesn't sound real, because it's the same volume every time. So if we duplicate this clip, and in the top clip, I'm going to do what we did initially, and I'm going to bring the velocity down here, and I'm going to do this. This is what it sounds like initially with no velocity. Now I'm going to play the other one. Ready? Exactly. So, wanted to explain that. Now, something we need to know is if you're not hearing that effect, go back into the instrument tab here, make sure you're clicked on hi-hat, and what we want to do is we want to scroll over here, and we want to click on controls, and if your velocity is at 0, if we play, it's not going to do it. But if you turn up the velocity, listen to the hi-hats now. Hear how it's changing? It's getting funkier. Let's do it all the way to the top. That's extreme. So right now, while it's playing, slightly lower till you like it. I like it. What you're trying to do is you're trying to find like a human feel, and that's what happens with hi-hats. So here's something we can do. I'm actually going to go over here and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this one 8th hats, and I'm going to call this one, I'm going to call it 16th hats. So make sure we have 16th hats clicked. I'm going to delete all of these. I'm going to push Command 1, and now when I double click, I'm getting hi-hats, or 16th notes. So I'm going to push Command D to duplicate. I'm going to bring down the velocity, and now listen to what we have. And by the way, we'll play the old one first, 8th notes. Now, when you click these, it's going to launch on the downbeat, which is why Ableton created this session view. So now we're going to switch it up to the 16th notes, and notice how it sounds different. Now let's add some variety. So we're in the 16th hats because I feel like we probably want to hear more 16th hats right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push, so right now we're in 16th notes. So 16th notes is 4 little segments to a beat. And we've got these 4 beats here. I'm going to come in here, and by the way, you can always adjust these like this, but I'm going to keep the kick. I like to normally keep kicks in 16th notes. So what I want to do is I want to keep it how it is right here, but I want to make a little change in the second bar. Right now we have 1 bar, so let's click duplicate. And I'm going to switch over to pen tool just because I feel like it. And okay, so I like that. I'm going to duplicate again. And I'm going to duplicate this snare. And I'm going to click stop. I'm going to take these two. Actually, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to delete this guy. I'm going to drag on the edge, and I'm going to make it, it sounds really good at the end if you had a hi-hat open, so listen to this. Actually, before we move on, I want to go over a bit of drum programming till we go to our next drum rack approach. So I'm going to double-click this title bar to bring it down. So I'm going to go over a couple of useful audio effects to process your drum sounds, because right now, if we click play, I'm going to lower the volume on this. It sounds just really boring, right? It sounds boring. So the first thing you would do, go into audio effects, and we're going to give it some bite. Go over to drive and color. You're going to drag a drum bus. This is like my favorite device for drums. Now listen how it changes as I tweak these. Lowering dampening can help rein in some of the higher frequencies. We can adjust our compressor. Listen how beefy that is. Without drum bus. With drum bus. But right now, it sounds too dry. What I mean by that is you'll hear dry and wet. There's a dry-wet knob. Dry means unprocessed. Wet means fully processed with whatever effect you're trying to use. The 808 samples were all made in like synthesizers. So these are like synthetic drum samples. These aren't like someone recording like an actual drum kit. So because of that, these aren't recorded in a room. And every single sound that we hear has reverb. Has some sort of natural reverb to it, no matter if you're outside or inside. So when we don't hear that, it sounds very flat, sounds very dry. So let's go and let's add a reverb. So I'm going to play, I'm going to add a reverb, and I'm going to make some tweaks. Hybrid reverb. We don't want that. In fact, I'm going to turn the blend all the way down. I'm going to turn down this volume on the compressor. And I'm going to go to Made for Drums and find something that sounds good with drums. I'm going to turn the dry wet down so we're hearing less. I'm going to turn the decay down on this convolution reverb. I'm going to try a different one. I'm going to put some attack so it doesn't get the early transients. I'm going to lower the dry wet all the way off, and I'm going to slowly bring it up. See how it sounds more alive? Bass to mono, because we don't want any of our bass frequencies below this 400 to be reverberated. We're going to keep all that, and we are going to double click. This is our 808 Kick Classic, and we are going to delete. Why would we delete? Well, because now we're going to take it up to intermediate, and we're going to go back into instruments, and we're going to drag a drum rack on here. Let's just do a very basic scenario. Now keep in mind, we still have our MIDI information down here. Where are we? We still have our MIDI information here. Didn't go away. It's somewhere. I'm not sure why we're not finding it. There we are. See, we still have our MIDI information, but we're just using a different instrument to play it. So come down here to Samples, and we're going to come up here, and I'm going to do 808. And I'm going to do 808 Kick. I like this quick. I don't think you can hear these because, anyways, so we've got a kick. We're going to get a snare. Okay. And instantly we have this. Notice, you see this triangle? That's where I'm going to want to put the... Now, right now, this snare is very boring. See how make sure we're in snare. Let's do some processing to this snare. So right now, there's a little gap. I don't want that gap. And how do we make this sound better? Well, for one thing, we can give it some distortion. That's like the first thing you want to go to. Go to Audio Effects and go to Drive and Color. And I'm going to throw a saturator on here. Give it some drive. Obviously, snares always benefit from some reverb. Even though we already have some, we want some more because it's good when it's got a tail. And right now we've got like no tail. Adjust the decay time till it fits. And let's actually go over here. Let's put on soft clip. And I'm going to lower the gain. Bring it up to taste till it fits. Okay. Now I'm going to go back into samples and I'm going to do an 808. So we're doing the same thing, but we're just picking ones that we like. Hi-hat. I'm just going to drag one quick that I think sounds good. Yeah, where are these? Okay, there we go. I like this one. So now let's click this. So let's go back into the hi-hat. Make sure we click this down here. Make sure we're on hi-hat. And let's go over and let's start adding the fade in. Sounds better, right? Let's go see the volume velocity. Listen when I take it away. It's like, boom. Add it till it sounds good. I like that. I'm going to process this hi-hat a little bit. And I want to process it while these drum patterns are playing. Okay. I'm going to adjust the fade in a little bit. I'm going to go into dynamics because I want to process this hi-hat. Put in an EQ8 on here. And I'm going to, notice it's done. That's all stuff we can cut out of this sample. So that's very basic. Let's push Shift Tab to get back to the clip view. And let's add some things in here. Let's take all of these snares and let's drag them slightly ahead. If we click the edge, now I'm gonna not talk and move and you can listen to what it sounds like. Slightly like behind, right? So one other thing I want to leave you with is a pretty cool trick. Now, I'm going to loop a smaller section so it's easier to see. Something that's new with Ableton Live 11 that's really, really cool is I'm going to come down here and you've got this chance. So we already played around with the velocity, but we've got this chance. And I'm actually going to close the velocity for now. So I'm going to draw in a kick here, and I'm going to lower the velocities on these guys. But with the chance says how often you will actually play this note. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to play it, and it's going to play these two kicks, and then I'm going to adjust the chance, and sometimes it won't play it. So here's what it sounds like. Now I'm going to lower the chance, okay? And sometimes it won't play them, you'll notice. So these are just a few things for just ideas. This was very basic. I wanted it to be very, very basic. And another thing you can do to close it off is while it's playing, I'm gonna bring it all back here. Shift Tab. You can go to the end of the chain here and go into Audio Effects, go to Delay and Loop, and double click on Beat Repeat. You can click on Repeat and play. Goes back. Ints cuts it out so like it doesn't keep playing. It when it goes to repeat, it cuts out the other drum parts. So that's interesting. You can push. That just deactivates it. I'm gonna push Command T for an audio track. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna record the output from drum track. Put it to record enable, and I'm gonna record some of this. See, we got recording. Go back into the drum rack, and let's put this back on. So it'll record all this stuff. See how that? So you can play the So there's a lot of fun you can have. Uh-oh, what's happening? It's recording everything. And then what you can do is you can take this, push Tab to go into the arrangement page. And I'm going to put this on the one right here. And push this button up here. So this allows you to, that basically says we're kind of moving. So if we click, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play this without, I don't know if I'm going to be able to play this because I'm actually recording myself talking. So if I click play, it kind of stops.